It was a quiet afternoon at Silverdale School, and the autumn leaves swirled in the wind outside the window, creating a carpet of gold and red. Inside, the children of Class 5B were busy with their usual activities, some drawing pictures, others reading books. But Hannah Thompson sat alone at her desk, looking out of the window with a faraway expression on her face. Hannah was a kind-hearted girl, but there was one thing that always made her feel uneasy: speaking in front of people. She could talk to her friends just fine, but when it came to standing in front of the class, her knees wobbled, her hands trembled, and her voice would hardly make a sound. "Don't worry, Hannah," her best friend Sophie had often said. "You're so clever. Everyone will be interested in what you have to say." But no matter how much Sophie reassured her, the thought of having to give a presentation for the upcoming class talent show made Hannah feel like her stomach had 1,000 butterflies fluttering inside. On the day of the talent show, the school hall was filled with excited chatter. The stage was set up with bright lights and a large banner that read, "Silverdale's Got Talent." A sea of faces smiled up from the rows of chairs, but Hannah could barely breathe. It wasn't the talent she was worried about, it was the spotlight. Sophie, who had signed up to perform a magic trick, squeezed her friend's hand and smiled. "You'll be brilliant, Hannah. Just remember, everyone is here to enjoy the show, not to judge. You've practiced your poems so many times. Just think about the words." Hannah nodded, trying to smile back, but her heart was racing. She glanced down at her shoes and then up at the stage. How was she going to do this? As the show began, the first few performers were met with applause. Sophie's magic tricks were a hit, and everyone cheered. When it was finally Hannah's turn, she stood at the side of the stage, feeling as though her legs had turned to jelly. She was sure her voice would crack, and her hands would shake even harder than they were already. But just as she was about to walk out, she heard a soft whisper. It wasn't loud or commanding. It was more like a little voice inside her that had always been there, but had been too quiet to hear. "You can do this, Hannah. You've practiced. Just speak from your heart." It was her mother's voice. Her mum always told her that the true magic of speaking was to believe in her words. Hannah closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath, letting the soft whisper of courage fill her. With newfound calm, she stepped onto the stage. The spotlight was blinding, but she kept her gaze fixed on the back wall, just as her mother had taught her. She began to recite the poems she had written about the beauty of nature, the mountains, the stars, and the joy of seeing the world with an open heart. At first, her voice trembled, but as she continued, she felt something shift inside her. The words began to flow more easily, and with each line, her confidence grew. The audience was quiet, listening, their faces full of admiration. When she finished, there was a moment of silence before the applause broke out, loud and enthusiastic. Hannah's heart swelled with pride. She had done it. She had stood in front of the entire school and spoken her words with courage. Later, when the show ended and the lights dimmed, Sophie rushed over to her. "I knew you could do it, Hannah. You were brilliant." Hannah beamed, her face glowing with happiness. "Thank you, Sophie. I think I heard a little voice telling me to keep going." Sophie grinned. "That was your whisper of courage," she said. "I think we all have one. Sometimes it's just waiting for us to listen." And as Hannah walked home that evening, the autumn breeze felt warmer, and the world around her seemed a little less frightening. She had found her courage, not in the loud applause, but in the quiet whisper that had guided her through.